These are not social democrats. These are hardcore, godless communists. They're godless communists. All communists are godless. They don't believe in God. This is the most serious threat to our country since its existence, in my opinion, 250 years ago. This is a major threat to our country. It's happening right now in New York and California. But you'll start living in squalor. You'll live in squalor. There will be no food. There will be no housing. There will be no military. There will be no law and order. There will be no nothing. There will be no nothing. You'll be a third world inhabitant in every way, and everyone will suffer or die. You'll suffer or die. That's what happens.
Trump was making that pitch to Christian conservatives at the Faith and Freedom Coalition earlier today, just days after New York's primary elections, where we saw three self-proclaimed Democratic socialists win their races. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani endorsed all three of them.
President Trump's going into these midterms with a significant advantage because of his performance, right? And we see him do this. He's just going to kind of like replace the caravan scare that he does at every midterm with the DSA, right? But I don't think it's going to work when you have gas prices as high as they are. I don't think it's going to work when you have Mamdani showing people that he can fill potholes with that same socialism that Donald Trump is trying to scare people out of engaging with.
I also think it hasn't really worked that well. I mean, they've been claiming that they would run Mamdani is a socialist and Democrats are socialist ads all over the country. And I don't know that it's really changed the dynamic in the special elections that we've seen thus far. And certainly not Trump's relationship with Mamdani. He has embraced him practically at the White House.
He has, and vice versa with Mamdani. I mean, he's been 2 times, I think. And frankly, I've watched the president treat Mamdani better than I've watched him treat members of his own party, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey.
That is actually true.
And I think on a personal note there, I think the president likes that Mamdani is a New Yorker. And I think in a weird way, he has respect for how hard it is to win the New York City mayor's race. And he respects him as a showman and the way he practices politics. Funny enough, the president views AOC in a similar way. He always says she's like Evita. It is true, right? She's the young, shining face of socialism. Eva Peron, right? I'm one of you. Look at me. You can see yourself in me. But the president, I do agree that I think communism is absolutely the most pressing threat facing our country. And I'm glad that he sees that, because this country will die by suicide from electing socialists before Iran ever launches a nuclear weapon at us. So I do think we're on the right path with that. But it's going to be an age thing. The word communist is a dirty label to people over 60. Americans under 40, not so much.
I mean, we're just picking a new scare tactic as far as I'm concerned. This is getting insane. He's up there saying you're going to live in squalor with no food and no housing and no law and order. We have that for many people right now. That's why people are voting for Democratic Socialists, because they want government to look out for them again. They want affordable housing. They want to have groceries that they can afford. And I keep thinking about like that old expression that's like, capitalism, only a few can be rich. Communism, nobody can be rich. And democratic socialism is anyone can be rich, but no one should be poor. And I think that's what they're trying to go for here. And I think that's what we should be looking at, because they're really modeling themselves after the Nordic countries, Denmark, Sweden, those kind of places that have the highest ranked happiest country and citizens in the world. And I think there's a lot of young Americans particularly that are like, this doesn't work for me at all. I have a worse quality of living than my parents ever did. We are the first generation that are like that. What can we do differently? And this is what we could do differently.
Let me play what AOC said just tonight about this new line from the Republicans. Listen.
The one thing that we know is that the Republican Party's brand is fear. And they have to constantly churn what they want people to be afraid of socialists, to be afraid of immigrants, to be afraid of women, to be afraid of, they constantly want Americans in fear of somebody. Because if you are not afraid of someone who is your neighbor, you're going to realize who's actually pickpocketing you.
Look, 7% of people who could vote in those congressional races voted. Wrap your brain around that. 93% of people who are eligible to vote did not vote. So saying that the message is resonating or it's not resonating, what's resonating is people aren't voting. People don't care. There is now you could do early voting, right? I voted early because my son was playing baseball on the baseball field on Saturday, and I looked, oh wow, I could just go in here and I voted. It's so easy. It took me 7 minutes to go vote. So we have made it very easy for people to go vote, but they've decided not to vote. So you can't. This is not a statistical analysis that you can rely upon about what message is resonating and what message is not resonating. When in 93%, I mean, the message is people don't care or they don't think their vote counts. But, you can't say, whoa, it's a huge thing when it's 7%.
But this is not.
But we're talking about the three congressional races in New York. We're talking about Mamdani.
That democratic socialism has been on the scene. I mean, Bernie Sanders ran for president twice as a democratic socialist. AOC is a known democratic socialist, and
and Bernie Sanders got nowhere. Right? I mean, he got nowhere.
Well, I mean,
Joe Biden was
you can either look at it as he got nowhere, or he ran as a democratic socialist, and he basically was the runner-up in the Democratic primary.
He got shoved out.
So,
they rigged it.
So he went pretty far. He didn't go nowhere.
And democratic socialism hasn't gone anywhere because it comes with the ideas that people want, which is things like affordable housing, affordable childcare, paid family leave.
This
but
is
it
a
also comes with
capitalistic
abolishing
society.
ICE.
But America is about
That's true. This is a capitalistic society. And today, I was just looking at some polling research today. 67% of Americans say that they are more afraid of running out of food than death. And then we've had a 16% increase since President Trump has been in office. My point is this. If you don't want people to be curious about socialism, capitalism has to work a lot better. It's really
I don't think President Trump would disagree with what you just said.
Well, guess what? Today, President Trump was out here talking about America will never be a socialist country. America will never be a communist country. When he just asked for $11 billion in subsidies for farmers because capitalism is killing American agriculture. His capitalistic war in the Mideast is not allowing fertilizer to get to American agriculture. So it's failing all around. It's killing people, right? And people are afraid and ready to do something else.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
People don't want socialism. Is exactly what you're saying.
They do want
They want
socialism, they just don't
capitalism,
know
but
it's socialism.
capitalism. We're living in late-stage capitalism, to use a
living
Karl
in
Marx
predatory
term. We're living
capitalism.
in late-stage
We're living in
capitalism,
predatory
capitalism is where we are
people
now.
feel like they can't have ownership in their society. Americans want to feel like they can own a part of their society. And too many Americans under 40, when the average age of the first-time home buyer is 40 years old, feel that they can't achieve ownership.
So let me just
and if
ask
they
you a
can't
question.
achieve ownership,
When Mayor
they'll be curious
Mamdani
about
says,
socialism.
we're freezing the rents, and if the landlords can't carry the buildings because the rents are frozen, he said, maybe we'll give the buildings to the tenants. You think that's the American way?
No, he diagnoses the correct problem with the wrong solution.
That sounds vaguely
I mean, that's what he
familiar.
said. He said, he goes, we'll give the buildings to the tenants.
Well,
not
look,
that they've earned them, not that they deserve
mean, that's
it.
not what
I do think, though, you're making a policy dispute with Mamdani, which I think is totally fair. But when you look at the fact that all of that being said, and trust me, everything was thrown at him but the kitchen sink, he's still the most popular politician in New York right now.
Listen, he's still in his honeymoon period. It's been, and you're going to think I'm being facetious, but I'm not. The New York Knicks winning and this winning streak, and that he's a Knicks fan, has helped him tremendously. Here in New York, this is a national show, but in New York, he's been on the cover of every newspaper with the Knicks, and that has been wonderful for any mayor. Whether it was Giuliani with the Yankees or him with the Knicks, he's still in a honeymoon period. Let's see what happens.
What's helping him is that he's
I don't know what he's got.
delivering on his
delivering.
promises.
He's coming in. He's saying
freeze the
he can
rents.
do this.
He
and
delivered
does
on
it.
his comments. And you
No.
know who gets hurt when he frees the rents? To some degree. To some degree, the tenants. You know why? Because you think the landlord's going to put in a new counter. You think the landlord's going to put in a new refrigerator. You
Well,
think
he's
the landlord's
arguing that they're not going to do
Excuse
that.
me?
He's arguing they're not doing that anyway.
But there's a percentage that is, and there's a percentage
No,
that's
he
not.
came in and he stopped slumlords from not doing things to buildings that they have avoided for years. He came in and he balanced the budget. He
He
came in
didn't
and he
balance
filled
the budget. Hold on, Kathy Hochul balanced the budget.
That doesn't
He
mean
went to the
worked
governor.
He worked together with her and made. That's what
Okay, but
politics is
so
it not?
Eric Adams did that, as did Bill de Blasio, as did Bloomberg, as did Giuliani.
So
he didn't
you
do
think
anything
it's
unique
not worthwhile?
except have to borrow money
I
from
just
the
want to
state.
play one more thing. This is from Trump. Remember today he was speaking at this conservative Christian conference, and he frames this whole debate as not just a threat against capitalism, but a threat against Christianity. Listen.
These ruthless communists will attack all religions, but in particular Christianity. They always do. They're after Christianity more than any other religion. They want to end religion. They have to end religion because their ideology doesn't work. If you have strong religion, people like you that are so incredible and love our country so much and love God, they will close your churches in this country.
I guess it is a question also when the rhetoric gets so wound up, do people just start to tune this out?
I don't think so. I think that President Trump is actually touching on something that is very real there. There's been a relationship between capitalism and American Christianity for the longest time, right? And honestly, you know, depending on how you're looking at it, both of those things have been decently dangerous to Black Americans. Black Americans were the capital that allowed capitalism to exist, right? And also suffered the forced adoption of Christianity as well. So those two things actually do have a through line. I think President Trump signals to he throws red meat to his base, who sees those two things together, right? Their versions of Christianity don't want to give money to the poor. Their versions of Christianity don't want to take healthcare away from people. And that is what capitalism has been doing in America for the longest time as well. So I think he's hitting on something real.
And the idea of a Jewish state, Israel is a Jewish state, that's in the charter. That's the way it is now. Do you support that?
I've said time and again that I support the state of Israel as a state with equal rights. I believe that any state that
But as
preferences...
a Jewish state is the question.
I think any state that privileges one religion over the other is one that I can't tell you I support, whether it be Israel or Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. And a lot of that comes back to a fundamental belief that we should all be considered equal no matter what our faith is.
So Mark was asking in the break, is it just the economics or is it also stuff like that, Ashley, that has caused the rise of these Mamdani-esque candidates?
Well, I think putting it all under the banner of socialism actually is a misnomer. I think the socialism policies actually are the economic policies. I also think that there are people that have great issues with our alliance to Israel. Am I one of those people? I do think Israel is our ally. Do I like the current government of Israel? No. Do I like the current government of the United States? No. I'm still allowed to do that because we live in a democracy and we're able to have freedom of speech. Does that mean I should be persecuted for that? No. Could I be persecuted for that? Potentially. And is that how some people are seeing what is happening to Palestinians? So I think Mamdani's answer, in my opinion, is where I'm aligned. I think that people should be able to express their religion, express their sexuality, express their race, and express their ideologies free, whether it's a Muslim
do in Israel,
so
not
then
other
on both
countries.
not
sides, on
Palestinians.
both the
Not
economic-
Palestinians.
Are Supreme Court judges in Israel. Palestinians have rights
Not
to
at the
vote
West
in the
Bank.
election.
Not in
the
the
West Bank doesn't
occupation.
want to be part of Israel. Neither does Gaza. So if they were
So-
part of Israel, then they can
Not
have the same
Palestinians
rights
that
as
live in
Israelis.
Israel.
Here's
They
what I want
can't-
to ask you,
they
Charles. I
absolutely
mean,
can.
are Republicans making a mistake to assume that that sentiment that we just heard from Mamdani is something that is only reserved for far left liberals? Because when I look at the polling and I see young, conservatives, their views on Israel have shifted sharply negative over the last couple of years.
And I think I'm looking at the same polls that you're looking at, which is why I'm always confused when people pick out people on the left who are running for office and say that they have said something that was offensive, and they say that they, as you have said before, that that they are horrible people and you condemn them, right? So. But when Randy Fine in Florida was running for office, who Donald Trump actually endorsed, and he said that Palestinian is just another word for demon, which is still up on his Twitter page right now, I looked to see if either of you had ever condemned him for that, and I might have missed it, my fault. I will give you the opportunity right now to condemn that the same way that you are condemning the other people.
There you go, condemned. I think we could agree.
I appreciate
I think we
that.
could
I
agree
appreciate-
two things
I
are
really
wrong.
appreciate
think we
that.
have.
I really appreciate
I
that.
think it's the bare minimum to be like, hey, Palestinians are human too.
I appreciate
but I
that
don't
so much.
appreciate when my mayor is like, oh, I don't dislike Jews. I only dislike Zionists. Okay, well, what if I told you majority of Jews were Zionists? Like we were speaking during the break how
you don't want to be subject to racism, and that's totally valid. And I don't think you'd like living under a mayor that's like, well, I don't dislike all black people. I only dislike some.
That's not,
I'm
that's
sure
not
you
the same
have
thing.
valid.
That is not the same
Because
thing.
most Jews
That is
aren't
not the
that
same
good.
I
thing.
actually don't think
That is
that's
not the
what.
same thing.
I don't
That
know
is
if
not
that's
the same
what.
thing.
I don't
Don't
want to
drag us into that, by the way.
I don't.
Drag you into
Don't,
what?
don't drag us into. Don't drag us into
let me
your
let
discussion about
Ashley
that it's the same thing as black
Zionists?
people. Don't
Ashley,
drag us
this is
into
the
that.
last word here.
Don't drag us into that.
I think that people, I think what I hear when I actually hear Mamdani speak is that he says that he does not like the ideology of having a religious state. Whether it is, he said, Saudi Arabia, which is a predominantly Muslim state, or Israel, which is a predominantly
No, I
Jewish
hear you,
state.
but he never talks about the other states, and I think we can.
He literally
outside of this interview,
he
has he
literally
ever
said it.
made it his point to constantly talk
I
about
really
Like,
want
you
to
can't-
just
you
let
can't
Ashley
say
finish
that
this
is
thought.
what
Never,
all the
but just-
time. He
But
never
you
talks
can't.
about the other
But I
ones.
think that's the problem, right? Is that folks are so dug in on this, and I understand it as someone who is not a part of either one of those communities. Because I was sitting at a table on October 7th with a Palestinian and with somebody who has lived in Israel. And I saw the tension, and I thought it was not my place to get in. So I understand the personal pain that both of those folks are feeling. But I think words actually do matter. And what he said in that interview is what you're saying he didn't say.
Yeah, but his wife was liking videos of women getting raped on October 7th. So I don't know if I care about Mamdani's words, to be honest with you.
Well, then
When the
can I
woman
say I
he
don't know if I
married,
care about
who I'm
Donald
sure he
Trump's
supports.
words when he says
But
he's
follow
not,
his actions, exactly. Don't
He
listen to
tweeted
Trump's
apes.
words. Don't
He
follow his
tweeted
words,
apes.
follow his
He
actions. I
discriminated
want
against-
Mamdani's actions to be as generous
But
as his
Emily,
words.
but
I hope
Emily,
so.
Emily, I am actually following Trump's words and actions. He tweeted apes. He had somebody on his backyard that called the first black lady, the first black first lady, a man. He discriminated in the 70s against black people in housing. He actually called
So
for
did
the
Biden.
execution of the exonerated five. I am not only watching his words, I am watching the most powerful man's actions, and I'm also being told to ignore that.
All right, we're going to leave
Not
it there.
acceptable to me.
I feel like it's deja vu all over again. There was so much fear around that when I was elected, and none of it bore out to be true. Voters vote for what is happening in their community and what's on their ballot, and I think that any candidate of any party that's running their own race has the responsibility to run their race, say what they believe, and be as attuned to their community and their voters as possible. While there may be personalities, I think what they want to see is policy. You know, are we fighting to guarantee health care for every American? Are we trying to raise wages? Are we tackling on these huge corporations?
She would know. She unseated an incumbent, a longtime Democrat, and she ran as a Democratic Socialist as well. So she knows. And do you think that she's right, that this is basically deja vu? It's her race, but times 3.
Well, it's not that she's right. She's right that this is similar to her race, but I can't remember her ever saying, horrible, disparaging things about the American flag, being part or founding an organization that wants to undermine the republic. This is what some of the candidates that won recently are doing. So they are much more further towards the radical left than AOC ever was. So, at some point, she's going to have to contend with what a lot of establishment Democrats have to come to face after 10, 20 years. They eventually become the establishment, and they get eaten by this new cadre. Look, what happened with the Democratic Party was this. For 10 years, for 8 years, whatever you want to say, the party had no message other than Orange Man bad. And Zohran Mamdani, his allies, his compatriots, they filled that void with a very cogent series of ideas. It's called socialism, right? And they filled that void. And this is the only alternative message to Trump, right, out there in the ether. And people did pick up what they're putting down. Mamdani's a vote getter, no question about that. But this is essentially good for Republican Party because you have a lot of Democrats, even Letitia James, the Attorney General here in New York, pushing back on the socialists. They're afraid of the socialists because they see the electoral possibility what the Republicans could do.
But isn't he right in the respect that Democrats have been coasting on Trump bad for years and years and years. And now there is an alternative message. They don't like it. Some of the establishment doesn't like it, but it is a real message.
I agree, full stop. If the establishment Democratic Party wants to beat out the socialists or the far left, put forward a message. Tell us what you want to do. Tell us how you're going to make housing cheaper, childcare more affordable, solve the affordability crisis. Where's the vision? If the establishment and the old guard wanted to win, they should have been organizing. They should have been communicating. They should have been doing stuff. I think the frustration that voters have right now that I think is so visceral and so deep is this sense that our leadership is not well suited for the moment. They have neither the stomach nor the skills to fight in the way that we need, and they have failed to deliver on the promise that, like, oh no, just elect us and we'll get it done, or no, we know who can win. They have lost all sense of credibility with the Democratic base. They no longer reflect the party as it stands with voters.
What I don't understand is why the Democrats are going down this socialism route, because that's not going to work in the rest of the country. It might work in New York City for a while.
It doesn't work in the rest of the country.
Well, if you want to win the presidency, I believe it's going to have to work. So progressivism, when I hear progressivism, I think something a lot different than when I hear socialism. So when I hear Democrats saying, I'm a democratic socialist, I'm thinking, why are you saying that? The Republicans do a hell of a job of identifying, we're going to call them socialists. Socialists hate America.
Can I ask you something?
Please.
No disrespect, you don't have to answer this question, but how old are you?
I'll be 60 in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Look great.
All right.
Thank you.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
But I think the truth is that for a lot of younger people, they don't care about those labels. They don't know the difference. I mean, they know the difference, but it doesn't really matter to them as much. And part of the reason why, look at what's happening here in New York City. Just today, Zohran Mamdani just had a rent freeze that the Rent Control Board established, which he promised he was going to deliver. He got universal child care through in the past 6 months he's been in office. He's got crime down.
And he still has progressive
let me
Democrats
finish, Joseph. He's got crime down. He's got
the Knicks winning the
historic champions, and he balanced the budget on top of that. If that's socialism, then sign me up, because those are things that people want. He's delivering results for the people of the city.
So can I just
City Hall today, there's a protest by progressive Democrats against Mamdani's treatment of the NYPD.
Hold on,
So they're eating
but
themselves.
just to be clear, I mean, what's fascinating is that look at this polling about. Let's start with Mamdani. 48% of New Yorkers approve of him. Just 30% disapprove, 23% are unsure. So he has a net positive approval rating in this city right now. Look at the national picture. Bernie Sanders is the most popular newsmaker, plus 11% favorability, followed only by AOC, who has a -4 approval rating. And then all these other, look at Donald Trump. He's at literally the bottom. I don't know what Marco Rubio did to the public, but he is at the bottom of the list. But look, my point is that I don't know about the labels. I think that maybe people are too obsessed with that idea, because it seems like voters are not taking that seriously. They're also not taking the real controversies. Like, honestly, some of these candidates have said some things. They've deleted tweets. They've said some things that they don't even want to defend. But voters are just ignoring all of those things. And I feel like that is, if nothing else, that is actually a Donald Trump legacy. That Donald Trump set the table for that kind of thing in our politics.
Well, I think Donald Trump inherited I always said Donald Trump's election, a happy country does not elect Donald Trump. An angry country elects Donald Trump. And Aristotle said that you have to have a thriving middle class in a democracy because it moderates the politics. And when that middle class shrinks and when it disappears, you're going to get political extremes. And this country has produced Donald Trump to the presidency, and now it's produced Mamdani in New York City and AOC. We have a country where 1 in 3 Americans under 35 live with their parents. The average age of the first-time homebuyer is 40 years old. The main middle-class pathway to upward mobility and a better life, college, has all but collapsed. Most people do not believe that going to college is the way to have a better life anymore. That has been our main economic highway for decades. All of that has collapsed. A civilized global superpower would look at all of those statistics and treat it like the national emergency that it is. Because what's going to happen is the United States is going to get revolution one way or another. We don't want to see it go down the path that Russia, France, Iran went down, where the young disenfranchised just revolted. You're not going to beat left-wing populism with anything other than right-wing populism. America already said that that's what they want. But the Trump administration has to double and triple down on its right-wing populist policies to blunt the riots. Otherwise, people are going to look for left-wing solutions.